Hi, I'm IKEA, and for today's video I wanted to make a build showcase. These will be shorter variants than my masterclasses with somewhat of the same ideology. They will be split into chapters. In the first chapter I'm going to go a little bit into the build, its stats, how it's laid out, why it's laid out like that, what it does, especially. Then we're going to have a chapter of some gameplay, and in this case it will be, I've already chosen that we're going to have 2 pieces of random match-made missions. And I feel that these might be also, again, worthwhile, a little bit easier to watch, not as in-depth, but still a lot of information. And also I want them to be about builds that are a little bit maybe off meta, that are not well thought of usually, or a lot of people do not know that they exist even. And in that line of thinking, I've chosen for today's one, for the first one, to talk about the Red Patriot. And the Red Patriot is a little bit of a weird build. A lot of people don't consider it at all. It is one of the 3 good support builds, especially in red variants. And I wanted to actually touch on that right away, is that this competes, of course, with Ongoing Directive, and it competes with Red FI. Red FI is also a same line of thinking of taking a future initiative set and making it a damage build, other than its intended purpose of being a scale build for healing. And of the 3, this is likely the weakest. So I would, as a recommendation, I would recommend going for those builds first. So Ongoing Directive or Red FI especially is very powerful and quite popular nowadays, especially for Countdown. But I wanted to talk about the lesser brother, basically, and that is Red Patriot. And Red Patriot is mostly there to apply this red debuff, amplifies the enemy's damage taken by 8%. And that is just a straight up damage debuff to the enemy in the same way that Opportunistic would be and such. So it is quite powerful. With the 4-piece, it is this 4%. I am going for the backpack as well to take that 8% to 12%. Of course, I could have Opportunistic here as well, but Opportunistic is usually already there in the places that I would use this build, and likely on a Healer FI, or some other build that is a Hunter's Fury that is already doing Opportunistic. So usually I will do this layout and make my debuff a little bit higher in this, and expect someone else basically to apply Opportunistic. And that is also the intent of this build, is basically, especially, well, with all 3 of those support builds, is that, especially when you lay them out in a red fashion like this, is that you try to, if you think in the sense of a group DPS, so not the personal DPS of one build, but in the group DPS of a build, or of a whole group within a raid or a mission, do you lose more in the damage output of that person than you gain with the debuffs? And so for all 3 of them in 4 player sessions, you basically break even in damage output. But especially in raids and Countdown, where you also have 8 players, the increase that this build provides to others makes it so that it is actually stronger to go in with 7 red players and a red True Patriot than it is to go in with 8 red players. For instance, for Dark Hours, where you usually do not have a healer or a tank, this is a really great build to actually increase the output, especially as there you can, this application of this debuff is of course on rotation. So there is usually some delay up to 4 seconds before you can apply that red debuff. And also, of course, you need to be shooting enemies. You will not be shooting everything, so it is not as generalist as the FI, as that can like keep up just the health of its allies and make them apply its total weapon damage buff. But especially in raids where there is one big target, and as their True Patriot player, you basically focus fire that one anyway, then this is basically a straight up amp in those cases. But yeah, it is a little bit more, it is lossy, so to say. But all three are, as ongoing directive, of course, usually gives 25 rounds to AR players, so it's not over their whole magazine. And Redify also has some lossiness due to people not being at full armor at all the times. So all three have basically ups and downs and their pros and cons, but I especially wanted to showcase this one because I know a lot of people don't even know that this can exist, and that is mostly also down to that True Patriot, of course, drops with blue cores. As you can see, all of my pieces that I have of True Patriot have their core record, and then their attribute is optimized, although I got very lucky here, apparently, where I got a perfect piece. But yeah, you are not likely to find the perfect piece. So this is a build that does require some optimization in the same way that the Redify does. So that makes it a little harder for newer players. And in its layout, as you can see, I have, if I bring up the build sheet that I have prepared already, so this is from my build collection. As you can see, all parts have crit damage. So every piece that has 2 stats has a crit chance, crit damage. All of the mod slots are as well crit damage, and that lets me get away with that LMG. I will touch on that in a second, but yeah, you can see basically I'm going all in on damage. It's the same layout as a Red Striker would be basically, except that, of course, these are True Patriot parts. Skill-wise, it's basically what you use for any red build, what you prefer to use. So usually a Reviver Hive, and in my case, a Pulse. I really like having Pulse. And you can have Shield or Blinder or whatever, EMP Sticky, all of the popular choices. Basically deal with this like you would with a red build in its skill slots. So one thing that I do have, as you can see up here, is an RPK as the main weapon. For me, my left weapon, the weapon slot one, will always be the main weapon. And as you can see, I've pointed out here specifically that it has a crit chance roll. And that crit chance roll is, of course, its third stat. I wanted to touch on that really quickly, and that is that it is actually very valuable to know this, that LMGs are basically the in-between of SMGs and ARs. When it comes to crit chance, when you run them as they are here with a crit chance roll. And so they don't have the great utility and damage output of ARs, especially with that 21% damage to health that really pushes them over. They don't have that pinpoint accuracy on the first shot as well, but they still have damage to targets out of cover and crit chance. So and that, of course, is almost that's the flipped stats of SMGs. And of course, you could have an SMG in the spot and have 21 crit chance, but SMGs have, to me, always lacking effective range. Of course, they have low optimal range, but even to me, the effective range is even lower than that. And while they would greatly help with getting the crit chance up on this build, not that it really needs it, as you can see as well from in a second when I go back to the sheet. Having this with 9.5% crit chance is basically perfect for this build, and puts it in somewhat of a sweet spot, well, a little bit higher than the sweet spot for the Coyote, but still close enough that it is actually really worthwhile. And I'm specifically going for the RPK, and this I also wanted to touch on, is that the RPK, because it isn't a box mag weapon, it makes it a lot easier to not go gunner. And that's also what I have here, is that I have survivalist. And I specifically have survivalist because this is usually also what I take into raids, and I wanted to have saved for Razorback, as I usually then can be one of the crossbows. So having touched on all that, I just actually wanted to show its stats. And as you can see, it's a very respectable 56.5 crit chance. Maxed out, it would be 153 crit damage. If I jump back here, you can see the backpack slot does not have a full mod in it, and I'm keeping it like that just to keep it the same across all of those. But yeah, maxed out, it will be 153 crit damage. It of course doesn't have any Fox or anything, or which could have actually contractors as well. I don't have here. But all of this together puts it at a pretty good stats range, especially that 56 does work well with the Coyote, as that does work great with having the 0 to 15 as well, where if you had it a little bit lower, if I did go, for instance, contractors, then I would have to go the chest, so then I couldn't have Coyote. And that's always the downside, and thinking of how do you place gear sets, is I could go the Seska piece and then contractors, but then I would lose the Coyote, and the Coyote is keeping my crit chance up a little bit. So then I would be reliable on other people buffs. And I like having the Coyote in here because also it's synergistic with the thinking of this, which is a buffing build. And having rambled on about this for this little bit, I think I've conveyed all of the things that I wanted to talk about real quick. I also actually, quickly, the talents you could go for, of course, are you could go glass as well. You could go spotter and have a flatline and lose a bit more crit chance that way, actually, and put yourself at 51, which actually is not the worst idea, but then you're locked into technician, and I want to keep this a little bit open. So yeah, this is the layout as I usually have it. And in the gameplay in a second, I hopefully will show that it's still quite effective, even in a 4-man group. So I will do missions, and that means 4-man. And there it actually, calculation-wise, it would break even. But of course, it's lossy in the same way that all of the other supports are. And as such, it will actually, if I was just running a normal red and we were all outputting just full damage, basically, we would be a little bit more strong. But in actual play, what is noticeable is that, of course, I will apply it to bosses and such, and that makes it so that the reds and such and the purples may die a little bit slower, but actually on the elites and such, I will go for them, mark them, and then they will die a little bit faster. And that makes it so that in actual gameplay, it is actually worthwhile because we take out the more dangerous targets a little bit faster. And yeah, let us actually head into that gameplay. I'm going to start matchmaking, and once I have a group together, I will join you guys in that loading screen. Here I've accepted an invite for Potomac Event Center. And that should be an interesting mission. We're at the second room. I'm the second one to join them, so they were solo before me. I'm going to make use of my pulse there, put everything on the map and in our view for ease. That sounded like... actually, I want to say chameleon, but that is actually likely not a chameleon unless my hearing is a little bit bad today, but... yeah, I'm just going to move up. I'm mostly going to just play it as a red build in the same fashion I would a red build. Just push up, shoot people. The only thing I will try to do is mark targets that are priority. Basically, elites, heavies, that kind of things. You will see me just veer off for a second and put some damage on them. Well, it was a chameleon. I was not... it just sounded probably weird from it echoing off the roof. But yeah, it is handy to... eventually you will kind of know what weapon sounds like what, and in that way you can also kind of quickly guess what they are running. And yeah, they are running a striker, not in the best fashion because yeah, they don't have a means of stacking well, and yeah, but should still be plenty. Especially these DC missions, as always, they're a lot easier. The strongholds are usually more where it can be a little bit difficult, but yeah, it's this shouldn't be an issue for the two of us. So one thing with the LMG, if you've never touched one, you start off with actually a bigger spread and then the spread goes down. So it's basically the inverse of ARs, where you will lose accuracy as you go on, basically. Here you gain accuracy as you go on. And that makes it a little bit more that I will pre-fire. So you will sometimes see me fire before even the enemy is out, and that will cause it so that, yeah, I'm a little bit more accurate by the time that that they actually come into my field of view. Going to Bushen, I'm going to pulse here, especially, yeah, the enemy on the left tower. That's always the one I really care about because they're pretty far. And here actually I will use something. So I'm using now the AR, mostly because also I have better range with it, but also the way that these two weapons are laid out. So with the AR, I'm not sure if I showed it, but I'll just tell you, and that is that the AR has 47 crit chance from itself. So at those longer ranges, I will get the longer range buff from Coyote. So now I'm on the mid-range one. There should be a spawn behind us. I was a little bit weirded out that one came out and not the rest. And here, hopefully, I will actually... So I am in the long range buff there. I'm just gonna run away because I want... I would just want to survive, basically. I do not want to use my hive here yet. But at these longer ranges, the AR becomes more powerful because I do get that debuff, of course, from... or the buff from Coyote, the long range buff, instead of the mid-range one. So the LMG is basically a lot better at especially under 15 meters, and the AR is especially better at longer than 25 meter. And in that mid-range one, the 15 to 25, they are basically break even to each other. One of the buffs actually that you get from True Patriot that also often doesn't get considered is that you have actually an increased mag size. So it's not even capacity, ammo capacity, but it is actually the mag size. So as you can see, my my M4, where it would normally have 50 rounds, it has 66 rounds. And yeah, that is actually a little bit of an increase to its effectiveness, especially it applies, of course, also to its fast hands, having a little bit more bullets to stack that up a little bit higher. So as long as most of my shots go into target, I'm basically guaranteed that 1 second reload. Same goes for, of course, LMGs, and that actually makes it a little bit better with bigger magazine LMGs or box magazine LMGs. But I've already told you why I do not run them, and that's just, yeah, I'm avoiding to lock myself in to gunner. Going to pulse again, put everything on the target. I'm going to, yeah, you saw me there pre-fire basically, and then once he pops up, I'm basically a little bit more accurate. And yeah, in effectiveness, I am basically a red build, so I'm going to wait for my ally to put some shots on that enemy. I'm going to pop that guy's backpack and kill him. I know there's something on my left, but also remember there being a red that kind of went that way, and they were already on very low health, so I was hoping it was them, and it was. And here again, they're going to push out. I'm going to set that on fire. And one thing you will always see me go for more than most is I really tend to go for weak points, especially the backpacks on LMGs and the flame bags, the flame grenade bags of these outcasts. And yeah, that is actually a good tactic to get into, because usually what you lose in your not application of damage to basically the body of the enemy, you can basically make up for that in your because of the explosion or of the grenade, or the CCing of the flame bag basically, or the same for the backpack of the LMGs. When you blow those up, they kind of CC nearby enemies. So you do gain that in return. And I'm very accustomed to just shooting towards weak points and just CCing stuff that way. One thing you have to be aware of is when you blow up grenade bags or such next to your allies, they of course are in its range and they do get hit by it. So don't do it then, but all other times you kind of can. I'm actually going to give my allies a quick inspect, even though they are already starting to fight. Yeah, so that was a striker, not in the best setup, and a heartbreaker, also not in the best setup. I'm kind of looking around, where do I want to set up with these allies, and I'm just going to pick that position. Here, I do want to be a bit high, even though I'm a little bit longer range, so I am going to swap to my AR, because my AR is going to be more effective at these ranges. And that's actually something, yeah, that you can also somewhat fit into other builds, so you can kind of do this with striker and such as well. And this does let you have basically a weapon for each range and have the optimal output from Coyote. Although it is also, it isn't a difference that is so large that it is mandatory or anything. So that's also why you don't really hear about it that much. If you're min-maxing, this is adding to your min-max. But if you aren't, then yeah. I am gonna toss a flame grenade over there. Mostly because I didn't want to fire at that guy. I kind of had his head, but I was afraid of just suppressing him. Which, yeah, is one of those downsides of LMGs. They do suppress a little bit more. It seems to be the same amount of bullets from an LMG will suppress an enemy faster than from an AR. So there is a real mechanic there. I'm going to grab this chest in this end of this corridor, which my allies apparently do not know about, even though it's very visible. Or they do not care about loot, which is also an option. I do. I always care about loot, even even though. So actually, also I should say that if you're wondering why I do not have my normal SHD level, and that's because I'm playing on my alt account. So I have two accounts, which may even sound a little bit weird to people, but there are some benefits, especially when you're a long-time player, to having a second account, which mostly came down also to a clean start. Back when this character was new, or this account was new, it was actually very fun because I did not have access to all of the tools and such that I have, of course, playing my more advanced account. Here I will try to go for one of these bags. I do not get it, so I'm hopefully... So the dangerous target here to me is that LMG. If he gets set up, he can actually do a lot of damage. He's hard to stagger out of it. One of the things as well, so here I'm trying to actually go for that backpack back. And yeah, well, the LMG pushed out, but I was hoping it will also cover him, basically. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that DTOC is actually quite often, like, it's a lot less active than some people believe it to be. It is not, it is more active than most of the other stats, but it isn't the full active that you would hope it to be. And LMGs, when they are set up like that, when they have that little circle that indicates that they have gone into cover and are basically doing a sustained fire on you. At that point, your DTOC doesn't apply to them, so you do lose a little bit of damage against them. And while not greatly significant, it is noticeable. And here as well, we're going through... We have basically 3 red builds, none of them perfectly set up. Neither am I, basically. I am a support build, of course. But yeah, together we're dealing enough damage for this to not be that hard. I'm going to toss a flame grenade there, which is the point where enemies jump down into. And I'm doing that basically just for anything that jumps down in there is gonna get a little bit of a CC almost. And again, I'm just gonna put on targets. And here as well, you saw me actually go up to this upper left. So something's coming up for us, which is that heavy. I saw him on the mini-map. That's the only reason I knew it was coming. And you saw me going up here on the upper left. And that's because this is, well, first off, when I can have height, I will always go for height. If I can be above enemies, I will gladly be above enemies. That was the case, of course, already with my Eclipse video where I said that, but even with the red, I will rather be above enemies shooting down than below enemies shooting up. And so that right balcony there is going to get set on fire. I'm actually going to toss a flame grenade there, catching everything that comes out in a second. But yeah, that balcony is now gone. And the other balcony this balcony will also be set on fire in the next wave. But yeah, this position, I can still hang out here for a while. This heavy, we're just going to burn him down. Move on to the next target. One thing that you see me do that is more just my habit from playing gunner is that I will hold the button down when I'm firing, and that's down to that the gunner's perk of you get bonus ammo for bonus special ammo or bonus points to your ammo bar. I'm just going to jump down, by the way, from there. You don't have to. A lot of people go way around, but you can just jump down from there. But yeah, that's just the holdover from that. I am going to try to go for one of those. I'm going to make sure that I have the full debuff on the boss, especially because, well, especially the red. I mostly care about the red. The full debuff is nice, but especially the red. And yeah, you saw me go for backpacks. That CCs the LMG, that CCs everyone around him, basically. And yeah, we don't have our own CCer here, but we're just basically doing it ourselves. And this point is actually where that was the last wave. Once that LMG boss spawns, that is the last wave, so you can go start looting. It's only just waiting for that cutscene. So there you saw me support some allies. You saw me just put out some pretty effective damage, and you saw me how I play it as a red build, basically. There's a chest that opens when this door opens. We get another. This chest also scales still, so it is worth getting. But nothing worthwhile in it for here, except that I'm going to toss it down for resources. And yeah, you saw pretty effectively how this build plays. It is just another red build, just with a LMG. You saw me use different range for different ranges, use different weapons, which is actually a perk of having an LMG with crit chance, as this one, especially under 15 meters, will do a lot more. The AR from 25 to 35 will do a lot more before it goes into its outside of its optimal. And yeah, that was a pretty decent run, so I will actually join you in a second in the next one. Here I have accepted an invite for Jefferson Trade Center. So that is where we are headed to. And as always, as soon as I load in, I'm going to quickly just have a glance at what my allies are after this double loading screen, which sometimes happens. And a triple loading screen even. No directives are active. One thing I have done actually, which my ally as well has here, is foam. I have swapped my pulse to a foam, and that's just for me to show a few different skills. It is 2-man scaling, it is 2-man spawning, so it is not. This is pretty easy starting out. These first few rooms until the garage. This mission is really a breeze. And I'm missing my pulse already, but we don't have fog of war or anything, so it isn't hard to just watch the minimap and make educated guesses about where everybody is. I am trying to... and that's the downside from LMGs, as you saw there. I didn't have the really good accuracy and holding pattern accuracy, especially that like an M4 would have, where I can just pinpoint afoot, but I got her eventually.
Intruders in the east entrance. Then kill them. What the fuck?
Yeah, and we're going to head in with my ally. I haven't inspected them yet, I believe. They are a glass striker, which is a weird one. Not having the chest and the backpack is not a normal setup, especially going two-piece for more headshot, basically, and yeah, we're just going to move up. And yeah, again, I'm basically playing it as a red build. I am a little less effective than a red build. I'm making other red builds more effective. I'm seeing that grenade come. I jumped out of the way too late, but it was still it was a missed shot to begin with. Yeah, I'm going to move up and move up again, and we're now full 4-man, so the scaling then swaps. I am actually going to open up this chest over here and grab this loot just by grabbing it real quick, and yeah, we're going to join our allies. So yeah, again, I will go for weak points a lot, and yeah, there is so much CC available to you just by shooting enemies in the right spots, and after a while you will know where all of those spots are. It isn't a hard thing to learn, and it adds to your effectiveness by quite a lot. There, I wouldn't go for her for their weak points, and that's down to they're in range of me, so I would be affected by their disorient if I were to hit their weak points. And then you saw me as well, just instead of swapping weapon or such, just going for my reload on my LMG. And that's mostly because, yeah, I am running fast stance, so I do reload 1 second in 1 second, basically, if I have a ton of stacks, which I usually will have at that point. So there, instead of swapping to my pistol or my AR, I just went for the reload and did that way. So yeah, here I'm at health gate. I am actually going to blind fire. If I lose my hive, I lose my hive. I would rather not. I would actually rather keep it for later on. But yeah, he's gone, and that's the last one. There, basically, I was like, my allies have to deal with this. I'm just gonna. I did enough for this fight, and hopefully they do, and they did. I am gonna actually run up here real fast and be one of the first ones at this door, and I'm going to take that time while the door opens to inspect my allies, because yeah, I know one is a striker in a pretty weird setup. That's another striker with chest and backpack, and that's that was actually I saw a few yellows just in the corner of my eyes, and yeah, that means that they're going for a third drone hybrid. And that's actually a candidate for upcoming versions for these. No, likely not the way they had it, but I have several third drone hybrids in my build collection. I like them a lot. They're, I believe, very effective. And yeah, I'm gonna just, hopefully my allies will catch up. I will go for this chest, even if they engage right away.
Is this the division?
And yeah, so here they have engaged, but they should have actually moved up a lot more. One of the things that I recommend you do not do in this mission especially is push up further than this point. So I will actually not go beyond this point. And even if I have to basically be out of range at points. Again, you see me go for the back marks. Just get them out of the way. So there should be a heavy here. I am curious where they were. So both of the heavies likely... So with the 4-man, we will always have 2 heavies. Both of the heavies spawned further away, which is a rarity, actually. Almost always there will be one out of that door. Yeah, you see there's several more waves that will spawn from here. There's actually going to be one more even. And that's why I'm going to hold back here. My allies have pushed up, but I do not want to give up that position because I do not want them to get flanked. And every wave that spawns will likely have one of these rushers with them, and I will just pop the side pouch on their belts, and in doing so I will basically CC that whole spawn. It is an area effect, so it is quite easy. but you just have to be aware of it. Because if you walk past them and they spawn behind you, especially if Fog of War is on, it is quite easy to wipe there. And it is a common sight to see fresher teams push up way too far and wipe there. One of my allies is moving a little bit faster than the rest of us, but hopefully they do not rush in. The next room is pretty annoying once everything gets scattered around. And yeah, there's no value to it. You're much better off just waiting for your allies and going in as a team. So here, especially with these guys, you see me, I'm just waiting. I'm not going in there alone and just helping that guy. I'm just waiting till we have the numbers, because if I go in and he dies and then I die, that is of no use here. We're better off trying to salvage this, basically, and that means that I will just move in once I'm basically with some more of my allies, basically, and that is somewhat of a dick move, but it's a dick move against a dick move, basically. They rushed in, they chose to do that, they did not need to, and it's not me punishing them, but it's just me not wanting to take that risk. So I would much rather us move in as a team with the rest of the team, and in doing so just be safe and just take it out that way. Not that these missions are that hard or that they're hard to carry or anything, but I'm not on the strongest build. I'm not the person carrying here. I'm supporting. I'm very much a support build here, and that means that yeah, I am dependent on my allies to deal some of the damage. So I'm not as dependent as most other builds. But yeah, they were taking care of it. And even though I went down there, that was me putting myself in a bad position. I shouldn't have pushed up that far, and I paid the price for it. They're likely to do it again, but I will actually go for the loot. Or they may have learned their lesson, either or. But yeah, the two of us are going for loot. Even if they rush, that's fine. I would have liked, if they hadn't rushed, I would have gone, oh, well, they're waiting somewhat. Okay, I might actually go for a pretty aggressive position. Although I'm reconsidering that because I do not have a hive. But I will, because I do have flame grenades. I'm going to toss one flame grenade there. That's going to be the initial spawn position. I am going to go up here. And hopefully my flame grenade catches most of them. My allies set up for them. The second spawn is going to be here underneath me. So the second I see close enemies on the minimap, I know the second spawn has started, and I'm actually going to try to catch them a little bit, because yeah, they might otherwise catch my ally out. And once that one has started, once a few more enemies die, where I put my grenade there is going to be the next one. And like this, basically, I'm CCing for myself. I don't have the greatest shot. Normally I put that a little bit further because yeah, I can't shoot through that, but I will actually toss a second one just so for when they push out. But my allies are here as well. I saw them moving up on the minimap, and yeah, they're going to walk into that fire again. Somebody's also giving us Vindictive, which is nice. And yeah, that wave spawned here. My flame grenade has gone out, but still, I'm not going to put one more because I only have 3 left. I really want 2 for the boss, and 3 is even better. I am actually going to go grab the chest in the background. I'm just going to grab all of these just by holding tab in my case for just loot as junk. That's how I mostly loot. And move up to join my allies. There is one more loot over there. I am going to make them wait. I'll go grab it. There's also resources with it. And I made that room easy for us. So I saved us some time. Now I'm going to cost us some time. And this boss fight, I would have loved to have my hive for. I will have it in 20 seconds, so that's good. But this initial wave here can be very dangerous. And that's mostly because, yeah, this is one of those full elite waves. So I see a heavy in the background. I will go for this lady's pouch. I actually will try to pop the backpack on that technician, because he will otherwise set up that turret, and the sniper turrets are really annoying, especially when there's also a sniper boss. I'd rather just only... and the boss is not focusing on me yet. I am just gonna work my way just slowly through all of these enemies, put debuffs on some of the stuff that I can, although I'm not doing that now. I'm just focusing this heavy. I want this heavy gone, and we get that. I'm going to move up a little bit. I'm going to foam there, and even though I caught nothing, I am actually just gonna take my time and just aim a little bit for that turret. I just want it not as active. I'm gonna put my debuffs on as many things as I can, and here even I suppressed one enemy, but that's fine actually in this engagement because there was other targets for stuff to shoot at, like we weren't in heavy danger. I am going to do that. I did miss. I was just using it, seeing if I got it, I got it. If I didn't, I didn't. And yeah, you see me use some cover to cover, move up to my ally. I will actually hive him. I will get him up. He did a good job. He went for the boss. He pushed up real hard for it, and in doing so, he actually quick killed the boss. And yeah, there my other ally goes down, who also did not have a hive at that time. I'm actually going to use my AR here, of course, because it is better at range, and there is their head is clearly visible, but geometry disagrees with me, and we have only one shield left. And I'm going to just put some shots over there. I expect my allies... he's going for the res instead of the kill, which go for the kill first. It's the last target. And yeah, that was a little bit messy of a boss fight, but it still showed that, yeah, we do decent damage. We play it as a red build. Some of the targets we prioritize. And damage output wise, well, of course, again, yeah, damage outputs on these aren't always super clear, but we joined one room in, so yeah, we did outdo some others. And yeah, you saw again how this is basically a red build, but you are buffing while you are killing enemies yourself as well. It is a support build, but it is a support build that can carry its own if need be. And yeah, again, I used a lot of my debuffs. You saw some of the explosions go off. You saw me give code buffs to people. Here, I didn't use the foam extensively because there was another ally as well assisting with that, so I didn't feel the need to foam as much. There wasn't so many panic situations. I went down here and there, but I still played it aggressive and, to my own standards, pretty good enough. So yeah, in a minute, I will join you guys in the conclusion. And to conclude this... somewhat shorter but still pretty long video, I just want to conclude with my thoughts on the build itself, and is that, yeah, as a support build that can deal quite a lot of damage still, as it still has quite a decent stats, it is a lot weaker than most red builds, but in what you lose, you buff others by, and especially in the configuration that I have it here, it applies, of course, it's debuffs, it applies a coyote buff, it increases damage for allies to status affected enemies, and I status affect quite a lot. And you especially saw how this dual setup of LMG and AR can work pretty well together, especially with that coyote there. And yeah, it is a very fun build. It comes, I should quite recommend it. If you're going to only make one of them, one of these type of support builds, I would say make a red FI. But also, red FIs are very much more common now, and having two FIs in a team isn't really helpful. So consider this. I find it very useful. I often grab it, especially for countdown, and I know that can be very effective also on the numbers end. And I hope you enjoyed this video, that I taught you at least something and maybe showed you a build that you will want to try out. I will, of course, link everything that I've shown as well again in the description below, so you can basically copy this build as it is. And of course, there's a lot of other variants as well that you could make and you could play around with as, yeah, it's more the idea of this build than its precise execution as it is here. And I hope you liked this video, and if you did, more than anything, I would love a comment on what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would like to see changed, as yeah, feedback is more valuable to me than almost anything else. And I already have plans, and I'm working on the next masterclass. I have several ideas for showcases like this in my head, and also I have another plan that will likely be my next video unless I change my mind at some point or take so much work. But I hope you join me for those. Have a good night.